Sireli Paregamner Yev Ungerner. My name is Aram Balian, and I am the Executive Director of the ANCA Eastern Region. Thank you all for joining us this evening as we commemorate the 28th anniversary of the liberation of Shushi. With me tonight as guests of the ANCA Eastern Region are Chairman of the ARF Eastern Region Central Committee, George Aghjayan, and ARF Eastern Region Central Committee member, Khajag Mgrdichian. Operation Wedding in the Mountains, as the liberation is known, ensured the safety of the capital of Artsakh, Stepanakert. Artillery shelling from Azerbaijani positions in the town of Shushi had killed 2,000 innocent civilians in Stepanakert, with many more made refugees by the constant barrage of unguided and indiscriminate rockets. This battle was a pivotal moment in the Artsakh War of Independence and helped turn the tide in favor of the brave Armenians fighting for their homeland. Without their efforts on the morning of May 9th, 1992, Artsakh may very well not be the independent republic it is today. Today, we celebrate this historic victory and the undaunted courage of the young soldiers who risked everything so that our homeland could once again be free. Though the war has been won and Artsakh exists as an independent republic, its borders are not secure, its lands are still filled with landmines, and Azeri killings along the border continue unabated. The ANCA Eastern Region continues the struggle for the safety and security of the Republic of Artsakh in support of the heroic soldiers serving on the front lines. Through our efforts, the ANCA has been able to secure millions of dollars of direct United States aid to the Republic of Artsakh. Over 20 years of aid has seen humanitarian projects supporting maternal health, clean drinking water, the rehabilitation of wounded civilians and soldiers, and the demining of arable land via the Halo Trust. Most recently, the ANCA Eastern Region helped obtain over 75 co-signatories from 23 states for a letter addressed to the House Appropriation Committee Chairwoman Nita Lowey, and over 30 signatures in the Senate for the Senator Menendez-led letter, both seeking increased fiscal year 2021 Artsakh funding for vital demining efforts. I would now like to turn the program over to Khajag, a member of the ARF Eastern Region Central Committee, who will provide his remarks on the continued significance of the liberation of Shushi.
Thank you, Aram. I'm gonna say a few words in Armenian, if I may. Շուշիի ազատագրությունը պետք է նկատել Հայաստանի ու հայ ժողովրդի նորակույն այս պատմության ամենափայլուն էջերեն մեկը, որովհետև Շուշիի ազատագրությամբ արձանագրված հաղթանակը բարձ սովորական ճակատամարտի հաղթած լալեն շատ ավելի է, ան նախ եւ առաջ զուտ զինվորական մարտարվեստի գլուխ գործոց է, կարելի է զինք այդպես նկատել, Երբ գիտենք Շուշիի անարիք թիրքը, զայն ազատագրելու մեծ դժվարությունը, թշնամիին զինական ու մարտական անհամեմատ մեծ առավելությունը, մեզ քանի անգամ ավելի առավել զինված էր թշնամին։ Անվիճելի այս իրողությունները գիտնալեն հետ, պետք է հաստատել, որ Շուշին ազատագրվեցավ միայն հայ ազատամարտիկի վճռականության, քաջության, անձնորացության եւ անգոդրում կամքի շնորհիվ։ Այս հաղթանակը արձանագրելուն մեջ մեծ էր թերը նաև այն բացառիկ միասնագամության ոգին, որ կհամախմբեր Հայաստանը, Արցախն ու Սփյուռքը, որոնք իրենց ուժերը համատեղած էին հայ ժողովրդի այս ազատամարտին ի խնդիր։ Շուշիի ազատագրությունը նաև ռազմավարական եւ քաղաքական մեծ նշանակություն ունեցավ։ Շատ կրկնված է անզուգական զորավար Տրոյի այն խոսքը, որ գսեր, ով որ դիրե Շուշիին, ան է դերը Արցախին։ Շուշիի ազատագրության եւ անոր հաջորդող գործողություններուն շնորհիվ քանի մգեդեր կուզեմ թվել, պատմականորեն հայության պատկանող քաղաքներն ու քյուղերը կվերաթարնային իրավադիրոջ, ի վերջո մեր պատմական հայրենիքեն։ Արցախի մայրաքաղաք Ստեփանագերդը եւ անոր շրջագա մույս հայկական բնակավայրերը համեմատական կսկսեն խաղաղություն ապրիլ, որովհետեւ Ստեփանագերդը ամենօրյա գրակներու դակ էր, երբ Շուշին գրավված էր ազերիներուն կողմէ։ Ամբողջական շրջափակման մեջ հայտնված Արցախը ի վերջո ցամաքի կապ ունեցավ Մայր Հայաստանին հետ։ Եվ Արցախի սահմանները հասնելով մինչև Արաքս, Արցախը ունեցավ նաև միջազգային սահման։ Եվ ազատագրության շնորհիվ նաև հագամարտության շփման քիծը գիսով չափ կրճատվեցավ։ Ինչպես նաև Արցախի դերն ու թերը կբարձրանար եւ թշնամիին կբարձրվեր բանակցության սեղան նստիլ ի վերջո իրավագիրոջ հետ, որ մինչ այդ կմերժեր նստիլ։ Ինչ պետք է անել այսօր։ Անցնվեր ազատամարտիկներու այս արյունով ու նվիրումով զինվորական այս հաղթանակը նվաճված է եւ հողը ազատագրված է։ Այսօր պայքարը տեղափոխված է քաղաքական ու դիվանագիտական դաշտ։ Հայաստանն ու հայությունը բարձավես իրավունք չունին եւ չեն կրնար ծով արյամբ ու զոհաբերությամբ ձեռք բերված իրավունքներուն դեր չկանգնել։ Հայության ուժերու մեկտեղումով ու լարումով մենք բոլորս պարտավոր ենք հաղթել նաև այս ճակատին վրա, քաղաքական եւ դիվանագիտական ճակատին վրա, որովհետեւ արդար իրավունքը չի դրվիր, այլ կառնվի։ Հաջորդը կուզեմ նշել, որ ազատագրված հայրենիքը շենցնելու պարտավորություն ունի հայության յուրաքանչյուր մասնիկ, լանիգա բեդություն, գուսակցություն, միություն, հաստատություն կամ անհատ։ Եվ երրորդը ազատագրված հայրենիքի ձեռքբերումը պետք չէ մոռացության մատնե հայրենիքի թեր չազատագրված հատվածը, ինչպես օրինակ Շահումյանի շրջանը եւ այլ հայապատկան տարածքներ։ Այս թասով եւ աբակային նայելու այս հերանեկարով կուզեի անցամբ ողջունել Շուշիի ազատագրության դարեթարցը։ Շնորհակալություն։
Thank you, Khajag, for your remarks. We would now like to share a video produced by Yerkir Media, created to describe the liberation of Shushi, narrated by DCA ANCA activist Nairi Chikoski.
It was time for the Armenian people and their courageous heroes to act. More than 2,000 soldiers responded to the fateful call to action, including Argati Der Datevosyan commandos, Yura Hovanisyan, Seyran Ohanyan, Ashod Gulyan Asgulcha, Valery Chichan, Tushman Bartan, Felix Kuzogyan, Samvel Papayan, Gerard Sefilian, Never Chachoyan, and others. The battle plan for the liberation of Shushi was prepared over a month in advance. However, before our soldiers could proceed with full-scale combat operations, the enemy's firing positions and bases of operation needed to be neutralized. The volunteer detachments, freedom fighters, and reconnaissance personnel needed to be briefed and prepared. The will to fight, the will to capture the impregnable fortress of Shushi and protect the Armenians of Artsakh was intangible from all the volunteers, but preparedness, experience, and an intimate knowledge of the battle plan was of utmost importance. By April 28th, field hospitals had been organized in 23 brigades consisting of medical workers, radio operators, and military units were sent to Artsakh from Yerevan. Dozens of volunteer detachments of the Republic of Armenia and Artsakh would take part in the battle. Before the liberation, Azerbaijani forces maintained large military bases in the villages of Janasan and Kyosalar, near Shushi, and in addition to their Grad missile installations bombarding Stepanakert, they had been conducting air raids from these bases using Mi-24 helicopters and Su-25 bombers that surprisingly sported CIS logos. These aircraft were later determined to have been leased to the Azeri Air Force and in fact were not captured or stolen from Russian bases. The situation in the Armenian-populated cities and villages had become untenable. The lack of water and medicine made the risk of an outbreak of disease a very real possibility. There was no electricity, no fuel, and no bread. The ANCA ER Supreme Council demanded that the Military Council take immediate steps. Along a 40-kilometer front line extending from the village of Garagav to Kirs, the planned operation had 4 objectives. The first unit, under the command of Valery Chichan, was to advance on position 26. The second unit was to advance on Shushi under the command of Argati Der Tadevosyan. The third objective was Lachin, under the command of Samvel Babayan. The fourth and final objective was Kyosalar, under the command of Seyran Ohanyan. A reserve unit consisting of 300 fighters tasked to assist military operations in any direction in need of immediate assistance was formed and placed under the command of Yura Hovanesyan. On May 4th, the commander of the Armenian Self-Defense Forces, Argadi Der Datevosyan, signed the order to attack. In preparation, Armenian military deployments in the Shushi, Lachin area had been ongoing since April 27th, and calculated steps were taken to mislead the enemy to expect numerous weak attacks in all directions. On May 8th, it was time to attack, and at 2:30 p.m., the liberation of Shushi, known as Operation Wedding in the Mountains, began. After an artillery barrage of over an hour to weaken enemy positions, the infantry units began to advance at exactly 4 p.m. The 4th Platoon, under the command of Gagik Sarkisyan, with the support of 1 tank and 2 infantry vehicles, attacked the Stepanakert-Shushi highway. The enemy there put up a serious but short-lived resistance near the radio towers. And when our forces destroyed the enemy's armored and infantry fighting vehicles, blocking any potential assistance to reach them, the Azeris fled. After the success of this initial engagement, Armenian units began slowly fighting their way towards the gates of Shushi. The 1st Battalion, led by Ashod Gulyan, approached the fortress wall initially unnoticed, with the objective of destroying the Azeri positions inside the fortress walls with hand grenades. The enemy began firing their weapons indiscriminately as they caught wind of the attack. Meanwhile, the 1st, 2nd, and auxiliary subdivisions started moving towards the Shushi prison and towers. The Azeri forces were not expecting an attack from this direction and were visibly confused before they began to fire a hail of bullets at the Armenian soldiers. Although several Armenian fighters were wounded in the advance, the courageous men did not panic. The fighting continued well into the night, when fresh soldiers arrived to relieve the initial attacking units. But the situation was becoming quite dangerous. The Azeri Air Force launched an attack from Aghjayan, and a heavy bombardment began, with the Stepanakert-Shushi highway held under constant fire. In order to avoid losses, our soldiers halted the offensive and entrenched themselves in the open fields to undertake defensive operations. At dawn, an enemy counterattack was successfully stopped by our forces. Our own advance continued. The Azeris thought that the Armenians were already in Shushi, as several buildings were burning, and they began their panicked retreat into the city center. The confusion demoralized the Azeri forces, and by late morning, most of the enemy had fled. The only actual resistance was sporadic gunfire that did not pose a threat to our forces. Our brave soldiers soon retook the Ghazanchetsot's church, which had been turned into an ammunition depot by the Azeris. As they retreated, they tried to destroy the church, but our forces prevailed. In order to justify their defeat, the Azeris began spreading rumors that Armenian forces had used chemical weapons and air power. This misleading information appeared in the Russian press and was broadcast on TV, claiming that the reason for the defeat was because the Azeris were poorly armed and disorganized, which clearly did not correspond to the reality on the ground. In fact, it was the exemplary courage of our fighters that played a decisive role in the victory at Shushi. Armenian forces triumphantly entered the nearly destroyed city and proudly raised the Armenian tricolor on the historic Ghazanchetsot's church. We had finally managed to take a small but critical step in our struggle to realize our age-old dream of self-determination. Today we honor all those who made that victory a reality, and we will never forget our heroes who sacrificed everything for our homeland. General Duro once said, "Whoever rules Shushi also rules Karabakh," and with this victory we assured our ancestral homeland will remain with us forever.
We are grateful to Yerkir Media for the time and effort put in to make such a powerful and vital piece. I would now like to introduce ARF Eastern Region Central Committee Chairman George Aghjayan, who will provide the Central Committee's remarks.
Thank you, Aram, and thank you, Khajag, for your comments as well. Anniversaries are a time to reflect how we have gotten here and where we are going. Generations have grown up with the current impasse as the only reality that they know, but we should not forget the violent response of Azerbaijan to the peaceful calls for independence of the people of Artsakh. Today, on the anniversary of the liberation of Shushi and the end to the indiscriminate Azeri bombing of Stepanakert, it is more appropriate than ever to reaffirm our resolve for Artsakh's independence and the peace and security of its citizens, particularly in light of comments and efforts internationally to turn back the clock, to renegotiate what has already been won. The Armenian Revolutionary Federation Eastern Region stands ready, as it was in the beginning and has continued to this day, to serve that noble and human rights objective. Thank you.
Thank you, George, for your thoughtful comments, and thank you to Unget Khajag for being here, for both of you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
We are proud to present our final video today, which was produced by activists from the ANCA Eastern Region.
The city of Shushi has for millennia been a center of culture, learning, and civilization for Armenians. Armenians have lived, prospered, developed, learned, and created in Shushi as they have throughout Artsakh. In the early 20th century, Turks and Azeris began to persecute Armenians living in Artsakh, destroying property and killing Armenian civilians. During the Soviet era, Stalin transferred the administrative oversight of Artsakh and Nakhichevan to Baku. Soviet Azerbaijan then spent decades oppressing, persecuting, forcefully moving, and at times massacring the Armenian populations of Artsakh and Nakhichevan. Azerbaijan also made every effort to keep Armenian-occupied regions underdeveloped and made certain to isolate Artsakh from the Republic of Armenia. In 1988, after decades of oppression and persecution, as the Soviet Union began to crumble, the Armenians of Artsakh organized peaceful demonstrations to demand the reunification of Artsakh with Armenia. Azerbaijan responded with pogroms in Baku and Sumgait, creating a refugee crisis as the survivors of these massacres were forced to leave Azerbaijan. The bloody response by Azerbaijan made it clear to the Armenians of Artsakh that unless Armenians defended themselves, they'd be subject to further massacres and genocide at the hands of the Azeri Turks. Azerbaijan continued its persecution and aggression towards Armenians. In 1989, the last Armenian living in Shushi fled the city. Shushi is located on a hill overlooking many Armenian villages, as well as Stepanakert, the capital of Artsakh. In the context of military positions, Shushi is in a very strategic position. Azeris used their control over Shushi to constantly shell the Armenian populations in surrounding villages and cities, including the densely populated city of Stepanakert, killing hundreds of civilians. By early spring of 1992, the war had become unbearable for the Armenian population of Artsakh as a result of constant shelling from Shushi. The decision was made to take back the city of Shushi at any cost. It was the only way to secure Artsakh's freedom. A strategic military plan was drawn up, and the heroic fighters defending Artsakh were organized to take back Shushi. The men going into this battle knew it was a life or death situation for the freedom-loving population of Artsakh. Most of them were convinced that they would not be returning home from this battle. In the early hours of May 8, 1992, 3,800 Armenian fighters planned to retake Shushi. The line of contact was 28 miles long and snaked through difficult terrain. After 26 hours of non-stop fighting, Shushi was liberated at 4 a.m. on May 9th. The operation to liberate Shushi was called Wedding in the Mountains. We lost 52 heroes during this operation. However, their lives were not lost in vain, as the liberation of Shushi marked the turning point in the Artsakh War. The liberation of Shushi made possible the eventual independence of Artsakh. Since the ceasefire in 1994, Armenians in Artsakh have rebuilt their homes, schools, churches, and lives. Our compatriots live and prosper and enjoy their hard-fought freedom. There is not one family in Artsakh whose lives have not been touched by the war. Still today, our young men continue to defend Artsakh's borders as Azerbaijan continues its aggression towards Artsakh and Armenia. The war has been won, and Artsakh is a thriving republic with consistent democratic elections. Yet Azeri killings continue along the line of contact today. Much of Artsakh is still littered with landmines and its borders are not secure. Shushi and Stepanakert are once again in the hands of our people, but our struggle does not end there. The ANCA Eastern Region continues to advocate for the safety and security of the Republic of Artsakh in support of the heroic soldiers serving on the front lines in the past and today. Through our efforts, the ANCA has secured the recognition of the Republic of Artsakh by 9 U.S. states, along with millions of dollars of direct U.S. aid. Over the past 20 years, we have helped to secure humanitarian aid for projects supporting maternal health, clean drinking water, the rehabilitation of wounded civilians and soldiers at the Lady Koch Center, and the life-saving demining of arable land via the Halo Trust. Most recently, the ANCA Eastern Region helped obtain over 75 co-signatories from 23 states for a bipartisan letter addressed to the House Appropriation Committee Chairwoman, Representative Nita Lowey, and over 30 signatures from across the political spectrum in the Senate for the Senator Menendez-led letter seeking increased fiscal year 2021 funding for vital demining efforts in Artsakh. To help the ANCA Eastern Region in its efforts against the Azeri and Turkish forces that want to see Artsakh destroyed, visit anca.org/aid. We also encourage you to join the ANCA Eastern Region's #60for60 campaign at ancaef.org/donate. Let's make our voices heard and defend the Republic of Artsakh.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. Together, we will secure the future of Artsakh and Armenia. To support our efforts in ensuring aid to Artsakh continues from the United States, please visit anca.org/call now to make your voices heard to your representatives. Thank you again. Stay safe in these trying times, and good night.